what is the meaning of the word pranayama and what are the different types of pranayama, what happens by practicing pranayama, and how does your mind and body evolve by practicing pranayama. That's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. I'm Harsha Nagaraj. Welcome back. Especially post-pandemic, the practice of pranayama, what we call as the breathing technique, has become of primordial importance to a lot of people. Why? Boosting your immunity from the inside by strengthening the respiratory system has become a top priority. That's good. At least you have realized that post-pandemic. Now let's get started with the practice and let's understand what this is. What is pranayama? See, the word pranayama can be divided into two different words. Prana, ayama. Prana means vital energy. Ayama means expansion. See, all of us breathe. We breathe throughout the day. We breathe even when we are awake. We breathe even when we are asleep. We breathe till we leave this physical body. Breath is a sign of life. But if you notice for yourself, the breathing will be very short in you. Maybe the duration of inhalation and exhalation will probably be for 3 seconds or 4 seconds. But by practicing the lot of techniques that are there in the yoga, you will be able to experience the expansion of breath. Now the breathing process is happening. You're inhaling, you're exhaling, maybe you'll be able to hold a breath for a couple of seconds. That's it. There's incoming breath, there's outgoing breath. But the breath retention, only when you're able to hold the breath, you'll experience the expansion. Let me give you an example. You go to a new place. If you go there in the morning and come back in the evening, or come just have a look at the place and leave in the next 1 hour, you can't experience that place, right? To experience something to the fullest, you have to, once you go to a new place, you have to stay there for a few days, maybe for a month, maybe for a year. Then you'll understand everything that is there to know about that place. Same way, for you to understand and have a deeper insight with respect to what the breathing process is all about, and for you to connect to your breath, you have to stay in the breath. But that is not happening. There's constant inhalation and there's constant exhalation. You will actually realize what is the importance of breathing process, what is the importance of the breath, only when you start practicing retention techniques, or what we call as different pranayama techniques. Why? Because that is when expansion starts to happen. See, your lungs, if you haven't trained, and if your chest is way too constrained, if there's no expansion in the chest, naturally the size of the lungs will be very small. That's why we do a lot of asana practices to open up the chest. Why? So that the breathing becomes deeper. Once the breathing becomes deeper, automatically the lung capacity increases. By regularly practicing pranayama, what happens? The lung capacity increases. Once the capacity of the lungs increase, the duration of the inhalation and the exhalation is prolonged. Once the duration of the inhalation and the exhalation increases, the lung capacity increases and the breathing slows down. Once the breathing slows down, too much of fluctuations in the mind, that also drops down. And once the fluctuations in the mind drops, I don't have to tell what happens next. Naturally, you will remain calm and composed and silent, irrespective of whatever activities or whatever actions that you are involved in. Pranayama, for the expansion of the breath to happen, you have to practice different techniques. What are these different techniques? We have 8 different types of pranayama, which is mentioned in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. It's one of the main important texts. Surya Vedana Ujjayi, Shitali Shitkari Tata, Bhastrika Brahmari Morcha, Plavini Stashta Kumbhakam. These are the 8 different kumbhakas: Surya Vedana, Ujjayi, Shitali, Shitkari, Bhastrika, Brahmari, Morcha, Plavini. These are the 8 different retention techniques, what we call as kumbhaka. When you practice one of these 8 retention techniques, or once you start practicing one of these 8 retention techniques, you will start to experience the expansion of breath. You may think, okay, I'm just breathing right now, so let me just close and observe the breath. You can just see for yourself, expansion doesn't happen. The real expansion of the breath happens once you start practicing one of these techniques and you are able to increase this breath retention technique. Once you're able to hold your breath with one of these 8 breath retention techniques. Inhalation happens in the right nostril, inhalation happens in the left nostril, sometimes in the left, sometimes in the right. Every 90 minutes it changes. Once right nostril is dominant, another time left nostril is dominant. What is happening? Why does this happen? You'll start understanding all these things once you start practicing pranayama. And even there'll be a training program also where you'll be learning and gaining deeper insights as to what this pranayama practice is all about. You'll study in depth how to practice, what ratio you have to breathe. First, we always start with 1:1 ratio. The duration of inhalation, duration of exhalation is 1:1. And then we increase it to 1:2. The duration of exhalation is twice that of inhalation. So like this, we keep on increasing the ratio in which we inhale. In the initial stages, it is not possible for you to start practicing the breath retention in the very beginning. It's not possible. First, you have to regulate the breathing process. There has to be a natural flow of inhalation and a natural flow of exhalation. First, you have to bring a system in place for this erratic and irregular breathing pattern that is there. Once you regulate the breathing process, and then when there's a natural flow of inhalation and exhalation, then you start retention techniques. You start, the breath holding techniques. If you haven't trained your system for you to connect and observe the breath as it flows in and out, if you start practicing the retention technique in the very beginning, you're gonna start feeling miserable. First, you have to regulate the breathing process. You have to become aware as to how the breath flows through the right nostril, how the breath flows to the left nostril, how the breath flows through both the nostrils, or which time of the day the breath flows through both the nostrils. All these things you start learning. And then each and every practice that you do starts to make sense. Then you start to analyze, okay, a sense of well-being comes into place. You'll feel a new wave of energy within you. Just sitting and connecting to this 10-15 minutes of silence by using the breath as a means can do wonders for you. If 10-15 minutes of silence can do something like this, imagine when you practice this consistently over the years, what state you will be in. And imagine what state you are in right now because of not doing this all over the years, all over the last whatever years that you have lived your life for. We all seek expansion. We go to different places to feel expanded. We feel, we have to meet certain people to feel the expansion of knowledge, to feel the expansion of the intellect. But what about your own self? What is it that you have to do to feel expanded on the inside? Experiences are good. Knowledge is also good. But you have to do a lot more than just knowledge and experiences. In order for you to feel the expansion of breath within, pranayama practice is essential. Why? The breath moves, the mind moves. The breath stops, the mind stops. Or in other words, there will always be one or the other thought which will be lingering you, which will be tickling and pricking you once there is the flow of breath happening in you. By regularly practicing pranayama, the rate at which you inhale and exhale slows down. Once the breathing starts to slow down, naturally, by time, because of the slowing down of the breathing process, the different thoughts, emotions, frustration that is there in your mind starts to subside. The breathing slows down. You start developing the art of letting go of things that is holding you back. See, we will always have people, we will always have situations, we will always have circumstances and experiences which will pull us down. That's natural. Because we meet people from all different walks of life. But in spite of being among these people and having these experiences, how do you remain calm? That is exactly what pranayama is going to teach you. How to remain calm, composed and sane when you have people from, all different walks of life. How to remain untouched. How to make sure that you truly connect to who you are on the inside and not get infected nor get influenced by the other person. Staying true to yourself is what you're going to learn by practicing pranayama. How the energy flows, how the systems function. Everything is determined by the way you breathe. I always tell this, it's not that easy to live. To live, it's a full-time job to live. And in spite of living, you are working. You do a job for 8 hours, 9 hours a day, and then you come back home, you live. I don't know, you have a number of things to attend to. Among all this hustle and bustle of day-to-day activities, you have to take out time for you to feel alive. And that's exactly what pranayama makes you feel. You feel alive. You start feeling alive. Or if not, at least you'll start invoking this thought of, or the sensation of wanting, or the desire to wanting to feel alive. We live, but are we alive? A different side of you will be explored by yourself, not just by me, or not just from the other person who teaches. Everything that you seek is already there in you. All you have to do is sit, observe, and most importantly, disconnect and disengage yourself from everything that is pulling you down. When you free yourself from the things that is dragging you down, it is not helping you to shine and grow and break the barriers of comfort that you have created for yourself. You have to start thinking. You have to start thinking about these things. Each and every action of yours, each and every practice that you do with respect to pranayama will help you grow and connect to closer to who you are. A lot of health benefits of pranayama are discussed. Numerous benefits. But what is it, that one thing that you have to remember? What is the one core reason as to why you practice pranayama? The one main reason from which everything else, all the other reason comes from, that one main reason why we practice pranayama is to slow down and to stop the breath. It's as simple as that. Each and every technique of pranayama that you practice has one main purpose: slowing down the breath and to stop the breath. And this doesn't happen in 1 or 2 weeks or 1 or 2 months. This takes years of practice. In order to slow down the breath, and once you start to slow down the breath, the mind starts to fight against it. Sometimes the body says yes, the mind says no to the practice. Sometimes the mind says yes to the practice, the body says no. Sometimes the body and the mind says yes to the practice, you say no. Sometimes you say yes to the practice, the body and the mind doesn't say no. All these happen. A lot of trial and error has to happen. Why? Because this is your life. You know yourself better. No other person in the world knows you better than yourself. Even your mentor or even your teacher. Because they would have seen you, they don't know all the different sides of you. And when we go and seek for help, the person is going to give you the answer from whatever they hear from you. But you know who you truly are on the inside. Why do you have to practice pranayama? By practicing pranayama, you'll start to understand what your true nature is. We have lived life. We have had incarnations. We've come to this life for a purpose. Each one of us are different. It is us. We have to find the means to understanding ourselves. How do you do that? Self-practice, sadhana, swadhyaya, self-study. You have to study yourself. And that's exactly what pranayama teaches you. You develop the habit of studying about your own self. There is no better text in the world than the text that you are about to write in this life. You have to write your own text. You are your own history. You have to write the history. Because there are hundreds and thousands and millions of people who is very similar to who you are. Because if you do not do this, you may not be able to share what you are experiencing at all. But if you do those practices, if you do each and every action that is meant for you to do it, you will inspire hundreds and thousands and millions of people who are like you. Each one of us have a different personality. The practice of pranayama will help us to tap into this personality of who we are. And most importantly, explore ourselves to the fullest. I hope this brought some sense of clarity in you. If there's anything that you wish to share, or if there's anything you want me to share, please do leave them in the comments below, or you can write to me directly on my email. I'll see you in the next one.